Hi and welcome. So Matt Stait again here talking with the Festival of Martial Arts. And here today I am talking to Craige Thompson. Hi Craig, how you doing?
Not too bad, mate. Yourself?
Oh, I'm great, my friend. I'm great. Nice to have you here. Lovely hoodie, by the way. They must make a fortune in merchandise.
Yeah. I think this is one of those sort of knockoffs, to be honest with you. So,
Yeah.
it's not just the official company that's making a killing on that, mate.
No, well, it's the inner child in all of us, isn't it? I don't know
Yeah.
a single middle-aged man who's into martial arts that hasn't got a secret love for Karate Kid. So anyway, back to what we're talking about. First and foremost, I like to just do a little overview of the people that I'm talking to, just in case the people that are listening or watching don't really know that much about you. So if you could just give us a little bit of your history, a little bit of who you are, and then we'll go from there.
So for myself, really, I'm relatively unknown, I'll be honest with you. I've been granted some phenomenal opportunities over the past 12 months, with the likes of the festival and events like Kaizen. Basically, I'm a karate practitioner based in the West Midlands. The karate that I coach, it airs more towards the what you'd consider the practical side of karate. But primarily for me, I like to make what I do more fun than anything else. As you mentioned earlier, we've all got that sort of inner child in us. And I think sometimes, particularly in the realms of self-protection in martial arts, we lose the ability to enjoy and have fun with what we do.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I like to focus on is not just the confrontation and the violent aspect of what we do, but also, tapping into the positive energy of karate to improve, the physical and mental well-being of the participants.
All right, cool. Yeah. So you, if memory serves, you run a community type project and things as well.
Yeah. So along with my partner and a couple of other local groups, we set up a charity, the WMA Community Fitness Centre. That was about a year before the pandemic struck. Luckily, we managed to ride that out and survive it. And one of the key things for me was to, as part of that setting the charity, it was to create a permanent space for my dojo, because at the time we were setting that up, we started to find that a lot of local spaces, church halls and community centres and things like that, the costs for hiring space was starting to skyrocket. So we wanted to create a space that was cheap and still easily accessible for our local community, because we're in quite a low affluence area. Tipton's not the most glamorous of places to live, and people do struggle. So, martial arts, particularly in Tipton, we've got quite a rich history of karate and boxing locally. So I wanted to sort of tap into that and get more people moving, really.
Yeah. Well, no, that's admirable, isn't it? And so your club then is it a not-for-profit? Is it a charitable organisation, or is it attached to that?
So we're classed as a constituted group, which effectively means that the club itself isn't a charity; it's a not-for-profit.
Right.
And being a constituted group means that we're able to apply for certain types of funding. So we can run projects, like in the past, we've run projects with West Midlands Police with the funding pot they had. And it allowed us to sort of get some kids off the streets. We've been involved in trying to engage what I consider at-risk youths, particularly with the problems at the moment you've got with the county lines things and that going on. And yeah, we basically we initially set up, the whole thing started from a bit of paranoia. I'll be honest with you. There was there were a spate of attempted kidnappings in my local area. There were guys going around in cars approaching primarily teenage girls, trying to sort of entice them into the cars and take them away. And there was nothing being done about it. So there was a local outcry. So what I did as an instructor, I started approaching the local secondary and primary schools just to deliver talks and basic sort of sessions on awareness, not specifically combatives, but, getting people, giving kids the common sense to identify dangers around them. Because, teenagers, especially now, are notoriously unaware of what's going on around them because they're glued to a tiny screen in front of them 90% of the day. And the whole thing just sort of blew up from there.
No, great. Fair. Well, as I say, it's great that you're actually doing something. So that leads me to another question. I mean, this is sort of outside of the festival itself, but it's interesting, and I like talking to people. So, and you're an interesting guy to chat with. So, when we one of the words rather you hear all the time is this inclusive to all, is this we want to be accessible for martial arts and things, but it's something that I find that people say it and they may mean it in certain dynamics, but they don't mean it in all. So with the rise of, you know, these giant franchise clubs, with the rise of these super clubs, with the rise of the overheads on some of those are massive. And so obviously there's that barrier to entry financially.
There is,
and so when they say accessible, what they mean is accessible to the people that can afford to pay the subs. You know, and so they're paying lip service, but not necessarily applying that logic. So you genuinely are, you know, accessible on every level through the sort of social economic range, as well as physically and mentally and everything else.
Yes. Well, the thing is, I've you know, I'm born and bred Tipton. So if you understand the dynamic of how people in Tipton operate, it's almost like living in a massive cult, right? You know, like the Wicker Man.
Yeah. Well, every community will tell you the same.
Yeah. It is very similar to that. So, you know, Tipton and sort of the surrounding towns, we've got our own dynamic. We have our own dialects. I mean, even between, you know, you could go 3 or 4 streets up the road and the dialect that people will use will change. And because I am local, because I've grown up around here, I'm not, you know, I'm not a particularly affluent person myself. You know, I'm still very much on the ground with everyone else. It means that you're coming from a very genuine place, and people understand that, you know. And as far as accessibility is concerned as well, because I've grown up around here, I understand the difficulties a lot of people go through. You know, you'll often hear people, particularly from in and around Tipton, described as very salt of the earth people, and they are. The problem you've got now is these very salt of the earth people are being pushed to the absolute brink of poverty in some cases, you know, and nobody seems to care because there's so many sort of sweeping generalizations in the media about very low affluent areas that, you know, it's almost considered our own fault that we're in this position. And you're like, well, you know, fair enough if you want to look at things from that point of view, but shouldn't you still be doing something to give people the opportunity to better themselves? You know, particularly where children are concerned, shouldn't you be giving these children the opportunity to aspire for more? You know, they shouldn't be forced to believe that their lot is to just, you know, turn up at school or turn up at a menial job day in, day out with no hope for anything to better themselves. And I think martial arts is a very powerful tool for betterment, you know, so giving the opportunity for that for as minimal cost as we can is like the key emphasis behind the whole charity.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. You know, I've come back and I've set up my club in my hometown that I came from originally. And although it's not quite the same in regards to dynamics of an area, it's still got a lot of issues, it's still got a lot of problems, and like you said, everybody now is feeling the squeeze, you know, or the majority of people. So yeah, very sort of similar things and reasons for doing that, because realistically, for me personally, it changed my life completely, 100%, and it's through the martial arts and the practice of martial arts that I've been able to go off and do the other things that I do. So it's great to be able to sort of give that back. Now, for yourself,
yes,
we've just been sort of chatting an overview about your club and everything, but what about you yourself in regards to when you come and teach at the festival? What are you planning on showing everyone or working with?
Well, one of the things I've actually been working on recently is making sparring more of a regular thing in karate. So if you're part of a basic what's considered a 3K karate club, you'll cover Kion, Kata, Kumite. And generally the Kumite is very sport based, you know, so it follows that point system, which I personally am not a massive fan of. But then on the very opposite end of that spectrum, you also have your very staunch self-defense based groups, reality-based groups, and the people that believe that they're self-defense and reality-based, but maybe not as well. And they'll do no sparring because what they do is considered too deadly to apply. And I believe that where martial arts is concerned, regardless of what martial art you do and how you want to apply it, it has to be put under some kind of pressure to generate improvement. And sparring is one of the key cornerstones for that development, because it puts you in a situation that you have almost no control over, and that you have to consistently adapt with. And I personally don't think there's enough of it done in karate to sort of suit particularly the more self-defense orientated groups, because you lose a lot of very useful tools if the only thing you do is, partner-based drills. And it's a shame, because you can learn things about yourself in sparring, whether it's, very high pressure, high intensity sparring, or even very light continuous sparring. You can learn a lot about yourself and how you adapt and work. And I just want more people to embrace that, get used to taking a few knocks and being thrown around, get used to pulled out of your comfort zone a bit more. So my plan is to bring a bunch of tools and hopefully people can take that away and use it themselves.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But I just want to clarify, we're not talking about a Beyond Thunderdome situation where everybody comes in and
No, I'll leave the chainsaws at home.
Right.
I might bring the bungees though. That sounds like a laugh.
Okay. So we're talking about working on some tools towards sparring and towards...
So I'm not going to pad everybody up and just have a snot out of each other.
No, I just need to clarify that, because there'll be some people saying, "Oh, I love the idea of that," and others going, "Hell no." So you might end up with a sort of dudes like this.
I picked the ideas up from sort of spending some time years and years ago at an MMA gym based in Erdington, the UTC. They had some amazing coaches there, and it was a real eye-opener for me, because I hadn't worked at that kind of intensity with those kinds of professionals before. And particularly in regards to the way they approached sparring and pressure testing what they did. I agonized over it for ages. I was like, how can I cross this over into what I do? The majority of it will be partner-based drills that you can then apply to a randori situation, a more free fight situation. But I'm not going to be having people beating each other up. I'm fairly certain I'm not insured for that, and neither will the event be. We're trying to shy away from anything that's gonna
cause a injury or stress to people.
It's the whole thing will be geared towards everybody being able to do so. Even if you've got, say you've got a parent attending with a child, they should both be able to work together, so they have tools that they can take away and use at home as well.
Great stuff. It all sounds really interesting. There's the thing is, I used to compete a lot in karate years ago, and it was it was the point sort of based system, right? But there were some great skills within that: the speed, the dynamic of it, the movement of it. There were some really good quality skills to be taken from that. But as you said, what I found fascinating was the fact that you'd be practicing all of these other things, and only about 5% of it managed to transition into the competitive arena. And I used to wonder about that. I used to, what do we do with the rest of it? How do we make that work? So anything that sort of bridges that gap, if you will, is always of interest. So I think you don't have to be a practicing karateka to get benefit from it, because the crossover and the principles apply across all different styles and all denominations, if you like. And that's really where I find things fascinating now, is the fact that it's the similarities between what people do as opposed to the differences.
Yeah, well, it's fantastic. Like, karate for me has always been great, because I always consider karateka to be the best thieves in the martial arts world.
Okay.
All karate is based on stealing stuff from other people. They did it in Okinawa by nicking really good concepts and ideas from the Chinese. and then making it suit themselves. And then, you know, over the years, you tend to find a lot of karateka. If you look at, like, say, the 70s and 80s, where you had a massive kickboxing crossover happen, you know, you had karateka that started stealing those concepts because it worked better for them, you know, and that you end up with, like, splinters and offshoots and all these organizations and that, which is a whole can of worms to open. But the main thing is karateka have always been good at stealing other people's ideas and then adapting it to suit themselves. And any good martial artist, not just karateka, should be able to do that, you know, embrace ideas from other places, because no, I don't think any single art's got all the answers, and no single person has either. It's your responsibility as an individual to learn from all these sources and you know, sort of brew it together and see what you come up with.
And that is why you are getting the opportunities now, right? Seriously, because, you know, I've seen you a number of times out at things. You know, you turn up, you get stuck in, and, you know, you want to learn, and that reflects and that comes across, you know. And so, you know, you're meeting loads of people, and that's why you're getting these opportunities, because you're putting yourself out there, and that's being reciprocated, and rightly so. So when you look at the festival, that's essentially the essence of what we're trying to do, is what you've just said. We're trying to get a bunch of really good people together with a whole bunch of knowledge, and then just sort of exchange and swap and play with ideas and play with concepts, and come away from it with a bit more than we had before, and some great ideas to run with and take back to our clubs, our training, and whatever it is that we do. So, you know, the ethos of what you just said is essentially the ethos of the festival. So that's great. It ties in really well. Now, I don't do these for very long, because they're meant to be just a basic introduction rather than a full-length podcast. So I don't keep those going for too long. But I just want to wrap up with, how can people get in contact with you if they want to? How can they find you? What's your where are you on social media, websites, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm still sort of building that, I'll be honest with you. After what you hosted not too long ago. So I'm starting to build my social media presence, but I'm easy enough to find. If you go on Facebook, look for the Musha Jutsu Ryu, at Musha Jutsu Ryu should take you straight to the Facebook page. I am also on Instagram, but that's not been updated for about a year. But yeah, if you do just a basic Google search, will sort of find us as well. Musha Jutsu Ryu. And if not, or you're interested in looking at any sort of community-based stuff that's going on local to Tipton or the Sandwell area, you can also look at the WMA Community Fitness Centre. And yeah, we're easy enough to find. We're on a high street, so we've got banners all up and down the road.
All right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Craige, thanks very much for chatting to us today, and we look forward to seeing you at the festival, my friend.
It'll be a good one, mate. Thank you.
Bye.